Hello parents, this is Mary Keenley, principal of St. Teresa's School, with just another parent update to check in with you and to see how things are going. So the first order of business is to say hi. How are you doing? How's everything going with you? I know this has been a lot, but I also know that some routines have been established, and that's really helpful. I know some of you are suffering with loss and some with illness, and know that you are in our prayers every day. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're doing things to keep yourselves well during this very strange time. So just to give you a little update on our status, you're aware that in-person schooling has been canceled through the end of the scheduled academic year, which for us will be Thursday, June the 4th. You are also aware that the Aspire testing for 3rd through 8th grade, which is our standardized testing platform, has also been canceled. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a later part of the program. First Communion has been postponed. We are looking at fall dates for this, but everything is obviously contingent on us being able to gather and have a ceremony such as this. Graduation's in a similar boat. There's no decision on the date of graduation, but graduation will occur. The goal is that be an in-person ceremony, but we do have other options. St. Viator is putting forth a really great program, and we're looking very closely at what they are doing. Our closing prayer, which is our tradition here at St. Teresa's School, which is scheduled for June 4th, will occur on June 4th as of right now, but obviously that will also be in a distinct format, but that should be really neat, so let's stay tuned for that as well. And then finally, there were a number of events that were canceled. Things like there were some field trips in there, some sports, track and field I know was canceled, special lunches, things like that. That the process for return is going to be started next week. So watch your email for a form to fill out regarding credits for canceled events. And you'll have options to donate the funds, obviously. You'll have options to receive a credit for the funds that will hold on your account, and then an option to receive a cash refund for these activities. So stay tuned for that. That's coming next week. We are also well into the process of getting ready for the 2021 school year. Class placements, where we tell you who your child's teacher is for the following year, are in process right now. The teachers are working on that right now, and the notification will occur as scheduled, which is towards the end of May. It's something like May 29th or something. You will receive that notification at the end of May as normal. What will not be normal, however, is the delivery method will be different, and you'll get more information on that. We're looking at some neat ideas to inform you and your child about who their teacher is next year. Regarding course placements, this is 4th grade and up, we will not have Aspire scores, but honestly, it's not a huge deal. We do use them, but they are not the determiner in course placements anyway. We will be looking at grades, the child's ability to work hard, parental support, and then the assessments that we're going to be doing in the fall for placements. The younger students, the 4th and 5th graders, will not be placed right away because we will need some time to assess, but that will occur in the fall as well. And 6th through 8th graders are pretty well placed already. Moving up day, when your child gets to meet his or her new teacher, we are planning on it, again, kind of getting a little bit different method and a date to be announced. The parent moving up days, the welcome to meetings, welcome to preschool, welcome to kindergarten, welcome to 4th grade, and welcome to middle school, will be done by video. And then depending on what happens, we'll do an in-person in the fall, closer to the start of school, again, depending on what we're able to do. And finally, thanks to Mrs. Sobey, the calendar for next year is fully up. You can check on events. We have gone ahead and scheduled the whole year as normal, and everything obviously contingent on what we are and allowed and not allowed to do, but we're acting as if we're able to do everything. So if you need to check out the calendar, find out when Christmas break and things like that are, just go check it out. It's all up. Now, when last we met, we talked about some areas of adjustment that we were making to the e-learning process. We talked about the quantity of work, we talked about scheduling, we talked about delivery, we talked about the need for increased personal contact, and how grades are being recorded. So as you are aware, we did a survey to check in on these areas, and I'd like now to share the survey results with you and some things that we're going to be doing going forward, things that caused it and things that are going forward. We're pleased with the results. We have a 54% return from parents. Valid seems to be around 20%, that's what I'm told, so we had a 54%. So the results are reasonably valid. The students, the 54% of the families, 132 families represented 184 students, which constitutes 46% of our student body. So they were well represented as well. One thing that we did want to know, and we found out, is how many of you had older students at home, and we found out that 24 families had older students e-learning in the house as well as the younger students, and we know that can be a great source of support as well as a source of conflict for you. We also wanted to double check our technology access. We had done this once before, but we wanted to be sure, and the results were basically the same, that 86% of you were fully satisfied and 14% were making it work. And we all know, too, Mr. Tuntlin has done a really good job of swapping out some of our units that have failed and helping kids out, providing extra units and things like that. So it seems like at least the access to the technology itself is stable in your e-learning at home. So one of the first questions that we talked about was student-to-student contact. We found from your results that 84% of the kids are making do with the situation, and that's fantastic. But the challenge is that 16% or so are not. We have some of your names because you provided them, but please let us know who you are so we can help you out with this. So specifically though, what are we doing here at school to increase student-to-student contact? Well, you've already experienced that every classroom is having regular homeroom meetings or check-ins. Different teachers are calling them different things during the week, and those are occurring anywhere. They should be occurring at a rate of about 2 to 3 per week. We know some of the grades are just getting into that rhythm right now. These are, of course, not required, but we do really encourage your child to attend, to interact with their classmates, and so we can put our eyes on them as well. We are also increasing the amount of photos of kids, both in Newscast and in Seesaw, that we're using in the younger grades, so children can at least see their faces and see what their friends are doing. And we also know that our Parents Association, the room parents, are reaching out and setting up chat groups and online groups for you guys to connect with each other. Some of the things that you can do at home to increase student-to-student contact is to using the Zoom and the other online platforms that you have to reach out. In School Rush, the app that you have all the names, phone numbers, and email addresses of all the kids in your children's classes. And if you need any help with this, please just a quick email to Mrs. Sobey and she can get you the contact information that you need. Also, if you need, again, you can also email your child's teacher and we can help you get connected to make FaceTime play dates together, to share experiences, and just to support some of this contact that is so desperately lacking in the kids right now. I also encourage you to, if you haven't done it already, to build your schedule such that you are eating meals together, minimally breakfast and dinner. Because at the dinner table, at the meal table in families, there's a natural dialogue that occurs among family members. And even though that isn't student-to-student contact, it's a human-to-human contact that is very helpful and very valuable, both to your child's formation as well as to their social and emotional health. So if you haven't done that, that's another way that you can really help your child develop and to deal with the times that are going on. And I think a lot of you are finding how much you enjoy this and planning on maybe keeping this after this time of segregation is over. So another goal area that we had was to look into teacher and student contact and increase direct teacher-student contact. At the time of the survey last week, about 70% of you said that we either had significant or sufficient contact between teacher and student, and that's great. And I think if we were to rerun the survey today, that number would be up closer to 75–80%. But our goal is to get that number up to about 90%, so that there is very significant and very sufficient teacher-student contact during this period of e-learning at all levels, little guys and big guys. So what are we doing to increase the teacher-student contact? We're increasing the use of asynchronous or recorded video in both the upper and the lower grades, in the upper grades through G Classroom links and the lower grades through Seesaw. We're also increasing the use of face-to-face instruction on Google Meet, smaller increments of direct instruction, as well as study groups and study sessions. And then we're increasing the amount of one-to-one student contact using multiple modalities, the phone, on Google Meet, and in the actual US mail. Some of the things that you can do at home to help increase the teacher-student contact and the effectiveness of this is, first and foremost, is to help your child to participate in the instruction or study group. Help your child to take advantage of these offerings that we have for the face-to-face teacher-student instruction. Please also help your child advocate for him or herself about learning while they're in these instructional periods, or even off of those, emailing the teacher, using Google Chat to find out how the learning is going, get their questions answered so that the teacher knows how to approach your child and what to talk about when they connect. We're also asking you to connect directly with your child's teachers about the status of your child's learning. One of the things that you may or may not realize is that at about 90% of the lower grade and still at about 50% of the upper grades of the assessment that we do, the understanding of how much your child is learning, the skills and the content they're developing, is by contact and observation. And even with video, we don't have that, except unless we actually schedule it. For example, in kindergarten, does my child know how to read? It's not a yes or no question. The better question is, does my child know the process of reading? And so how does the teacher know that? She watches your child do that. In this dynamic that we have right now, we can't do that. A math teacher in 8th grade knows how well her students know the math, not just by getting the answers correct on the math homework, but by also watching the child attack the problem in class. Does the child apply the right method? Does the child know how to set the problems up correctly, etc.? So a lot of what we do in the classroom, and you're experiencing this at home as parents, is observational. It's interaction. And we don't have that. And until they make like a holographic ability to video chats, we're not going to be able to do that. So please communicate with your child's teacher about the status of learning. Your teacher can intervene, your teacher can help, and your teacher can help you. And this will also help your child have successful relationships with in the teacher-student contact periods that we have. The third area that we were looking at to improve, it has to do with rigor. We talked about decreasing the quantity and increasing the quality of what we're doing, and what we want to be able to see is work that is more directly related to the standards, obviously, but has more depth of thought, more depth of process. As you can see, that 91% of the work is appropriately rigorous, but I would love to see that high rigor number go up well into the 60% by the next time we gather. We recently, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing. Number one, as you've already seen, we've increased contact allow for deeper dives into the material and deeper understanding of what's happening. We're also increasing the amount of feedback on the work that the children are doing, both through these direct contact periods as well as through tools such as Seesaw, where kids are sending their work back to their teachers. And finally, we're adding learning resources. For example, we're starting novel studies. We recently acquired DiscoverEd, and the teachers are beginning to use it to support their instruction with integrated video across the subject fields. We're also increasing the exchange of information through the video process so that learning is not just one way, but can be more meaningful. And again, we're looking for our high rigor number to be up into the 60% by the next time we survey. The teachers also asked me to remind you that their work is scaffolded, and to be sure that your child is completing the work fully, following the directions, giving the due depth of study, and taking it all the way to the end. The math teachers have asked me to remind you that in the Saxon Math, don't forget about the level 4 problems, that they can really help you apply what you know and increase the rigor of the work that you are doing. Also, at home, you can discuss the work with your child. One of our teachers is sitting in, one of our aides, Mrs. Montry, the school nurse, is sitting in on Mrs. Salvetti's math class in order to get that 2D safety profile that we want on our video lessons. And she's cracking up because she's learning a lot of math these days, and she's very impressed with how much math the kids know. Mrs. Salvetti asked her students today if they felt prepared for the test that she was giving, and only one student said that she was not prepared, and that was Mrs. Montry. Discuss the work with your children. They're learning a lot, they're learning it in a novel way, and you might be surprised at how much you learn too. The next question that we wanted to look at was timing. There was a sense last time we talked about the kids being overwhelmed. So we did a little dig into how many hours your child is spending on e-learning. And this is what the data that we got. Look at the norm numbers. Some of the numbers, in 8th grade particular, that's a pretty low sample size, but that the hours seem to be about appropriate. On the bottom line of this chart, you can see what the state is requiring, and you can see what we're producing here at St. Teresa. And that's about correct. It should be significantly higher than the state, but not off the charts, kind of wackadoodle. So we're in the zone, and I will have a chat with the 8th graders. The last section of the survey dealt with open-ended comments that you wanted to make about the e-learning process. And one of the things as we categorize these is that within the categories, the comments were almost identical. For example, and let's go ahead and start with video instruction. There were two types of comments, one having to do with the use of video for instruction, and the second had to do with the use of video to increase the social emotional dynamic for their kids. The comments were very similar. And you should see this is in process, this has been in process this week, and you should see a change even since you wrote the comments on your survey. And we will be checking in on that next week. We've increased both quantity and opportunity at all levels for this. Another comment you made was about the scheduling and could we break down the bulked up schedules a little bit. And yes, we've done that starting this past Monday. And so you should be seeing a more day by day approach for some of the grades that we're doing a weeks approach for you. And again, remember, if the weeks approach doesn't work for you, don't do it that way. Bulk it up and take each piece as you want to. You have time and things are not that rigidly due in the schedule. The focus of this week, as we just mentioned, has been rigor. One of the situations that we're in right now is that the teachers have been developing their technical skills, and we have in a certain form of mastery of the technical piece of this type of teaching. And so we can relax our pressure on the technical side now and focus on the quality of the instruction. This week we've been engaged in a week-long dialogue among the grade level teams about teaching and learning and what is the difference between what we are teaching, what is being taught, and what is being learned. And remember, the important part is not what we're teaching, but the important part is what the students are learning. And so that was the topic of conversation among us this week. A couple people also made comments about how challenging it is to parent in this way. Yep, it's really hard. Even the teachers are saying that they don't know how you're doing it. One of the most impressive pieces that we have, the data point that we have from the teachers, is less than 3% of our students from preschool through 8th grade are not participating in instruction. The standard in other schools is closer to 20%. Ours is less than 3%, and most of those kids in the 3% are in the very lowest grades of the school. So you're doing it, you're pulling it off, you're doing great. So keep up the good work on this. Grading we're going to talk about in a slide. Now finally, I just also want to thank you very much for your comments. 13 of you just said thank you, and there were more embedded in there as well. I really appreciate the graciousness with the way you made your comments, and as well as taking the time to thank us. And I thank you. We're in this together. We're a team, and it's not about one or the other, but it's both of us working together. So thank you, parents, for the great work that you're doing and for the graciousness that you're showing our teachers. So let's talk a little bit about grading. When we met last time, we talked about changing our grading system to 3 dynamics. Collected, meaning it was turned in and acceptable. Missing, meaning it wasn't turned in at all, and there can be 2 reasons for this. One, they didn't do the work, or they did it and then in Google Classroom never pushed the button that turns it in. And then incomplete, which means they turned it in, but the work they turned in didn't demonstrate learning, and so it has been returned to the student for a conversation in a second attempt. So that was the plan, and it's working very well. And as you can see on the left side of the screen, that's a PowerSchool screen. And you could see it very well that the homework was collected, and so they're good to go. The homework is collected, it's different assignments. However, one of the things that we have subsequently realized is that on the grading part of PowerSchool, when you go into like the report card side of PowerSchool, and you have it on yours as well as we have it on our side, the admin side, is that there are actually no grades showing up. Your children all have grades of 0%. And clearly that is not the case. So we are looking into this. We are in conversation with PowerSchool. It is a change that was made by the Archdiocese to the PowerSchool system. We think we have the fix, and we hope to have that repaired by the end of next week. So we will take care of that side of it. So in the meantime, if you could just keep looking at the dashboard that shows the work individually, and what you're looking for is that it is collected. If you see that work is missing, double check and make sure that your child, number one, did it, and if they did they actually push the button that turns it in Google Classroom. Other than that, please reach out to your child's teacher. Now, question is coming up. We're at that point, and now we know what's going to happen towards the end of the year. What are we going to do about trimester 3 or final report cards? For the 8th graders, the 8th graders have already been placed in their high schools, and their report cards, what the high schools are looking for is incompletes. They're looking for failure to complete the required trimester 3 work. Basically, they're looking to make sure that the child has actually completed the 8th grade. They've already done all their placements, and any other placement they want to do, any other assessment, they will take care of in the fall. 7th graders. High schools are going to be looking at trimester 1 and 2 of 7th grade this year, as well as trimester 1 and 2 of 8th grade, plus their own entrance and placement exams. Very similar to the way they're looking at the 8th graders. They're not that concerned about this trimester 3, except looking for the incomplete, which means that the child has not completed the required studies for grade 7. For grades K through 6, report cards are internal. They're just our records moving ahead. The focus will be obviously on completing the work as required and to a satisfactory level, which is that collected grade, a collected score that we have. And then in the fall, we're going to be focusing very heavily on assessment and reporting back to you on what skills and micro skills your child has or needs to develop. The fall programming that we will have in the school will be built on this assessment. And you can look at it this way. We don't want to know what their grades are, and you don't want to know what their grades are. You want to know what they know and can do. You want to know what they've learned. And then if you put the summer in there, what they have retained between the completion of this e-learning period and the start of hopefully regular schooling in the fall. So we're not so concerned about evaluation, grading, but we're concerned more about assessment. Do we know what they know and can do relative to the standards that they're supposed to be achieving? So you will be hearing a lot more about that. The word I-ready will become a common vocabulary word in your house. But that's what we're looking at. We'll make sure the work is completed now, and then focusing more on fall assessments when we're back together, and we can tell you exactly what's going on with your child's learning and skills. So I've heard several times now, we have to have a plan to catching kids up. Can we do a summer boot camp? Different things like that. They're all great ideas, but I need to remind you, every kid in the United States is in the same boat. Your child happens to be on a luxury cruise liner as compared to some rafts and canoes that other kids have to be on. We're all in the same boat. Your child is not behind. Your child is where he or she is. Now, how does that help me? Here's the thing. The goal is not August of 2020. The goal is June 2021. The goal is not that the students are ready or caught up by August, but that by next June 2021, your child will have the same knowledge and skills and mastery as the same grade in any other year. So if your child is going into 4th grade next year, it's not about your child being at the same place at the start of 4th grade as every other year, but at the end of 4th grade. And again, The beginning of the year is going to see a lot of assessment, a lot of micro teaching, gradually catching up. We not only want to address the differences in content and skills, but we also have to be realistic about addressing learning fatigue and the loss of some of the behavioral skills from the loss of routine in this e-learning period. We're going to take this slow and steady and solidly build up to successful learning. I can't believe I'm including a slide of Kenny Rogers, may he rest in peace, in one of my presentations. That's courtesy of my sister-in-law. We have to remember too that in this learning process, we're dealing with young people, and brains are not available to learn when they're under stress. So if we are pushing our kids into academic boot camps and more work, or if we're yelling at them when we're at home, or we're going to war with our kid about finishing an English paper or something like that, it's just not worth it. Know when to hold them to push your child and get the work done, but know when to fold them as well. If something is taking your child too long, if it's stressing you out, if it's stressing your child out, if anyone in the room is crying, please stop. Put it away, pick it up the next day, email the teacher, whatever you need to do, but don't add to the stress that you already have on your plate. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Your child's education is critically important, but your relationship with your child is more important. Use common sense. Check in with other parents. Sure, that's a great thing to do, but with the teacher as well. Think about it. Which is more important? My child got their book report done, or my child and I pitched a tent in the living room, spent time together, and made s'mores over a hot plate? Which one of those two things is going to be more impactful in the formation of your child's brain and your formation of your child's character? I think you know the answer to that. I can't help you with your relationship with your child, but I can teach your child math. Focus on your child's relationship, on how you're getting along as a family, on how you're doing things, and do the math too. But don't let this thing stress you out. And if any of you think you are being a bad parent because of anything related to or caused by e-learning, please stop this video right now and email me, because you and I need to have a chat. You guys are great parents. You're not perfect parents any more than you have a perfect principal or a perfect pastor or a perfect anything, but you are excellent parents. You are doing right by your kids. The numbers are all coming in. It's great. We are living in a weird time of boundaryless days, and there's only one rule. Love your children and enjoy the gift of time you've been given with them. You will never get this time back. Before we go, I want to just address one more issue that we had talked about in the first parent update, and that is the concept of transferable knowledge or transferable skills. And one of the things that we've been looking at this week as a faculty and kind of discovering is the amount of unexpected transferable skills that your children and us as the teaching professionals are developing during this time of e-learning. And basically, we're looking at those skills that will serve them in high school and beyond, in family and in career. And some of those skills, the obvious one obviously being the master of technology, that they've learned how to manipulate the technology. Teachers have learned how to teach with technology. The students have learned how to learn on technology and make good use of it and hack it away to get it to do what they want it to do. So that's an obvious one. But the other thing that we're realizing is that the children are developing really refined accountability skills. They're becoming very self-reliant. To a large extent, they're learning self-discipline and attack and problem-solving skills in their day-to-day approach. Some of it is out of desperation. They don't have anybody around to help them. Part of it is because they were never put in a situation where they had to develop these skills. There was a lot of support around them. So we're starting to see some of that develop, and we're really excited about it in terms of the future and looking at ways so that now we've got this rolling. How do we keep this mojo going? How do we keep an environment where these skills keep developing in the students? That was an interesting part of a conversation that we had this week. As far as technology is concerned, I don't know if you realize this, but we had a 3-year technology integration plan. And you saw the increasing the one-to-one technology in the building in the fall and all that. But on March 13th, we went from month 6 of year 1 of the plan basically to the end of year 3. And so the St. Teresa School that your kids and all of us are going back to in August is a much more developed place of learning due to the massive skills that we're developing, integrating technology into our instruction and into our communication streams, and the self-reliance skills that our kids are learning in this e-learning period. So this is not in any way a waste of time. And also, this is why I encourage you to not get stressed out by not completing work. There's a whole bunch of other skills that are being developed here that will blossom later on, and we're very excited to start seeing indications of those. So thank you for all the work you're doing at home. So last time we talked about the new normal and how the entering students in the fall of this year are going to look really different from the entering students a year ago. But I'd like to propose to you today that we've got a whole nother dynamic going here, that not is just the kid entering 4th grade this year going to look different, but the child that's going to be exiting 4th grade in the spring of 2021 is going to look really different than a child was 2 years prior. Same for the high school kids, and those kids that are going to be going to the colleges and the universities in the fall of 2021 are going to be a whole new breed of learners. And from that perspective, it's very exciting, very 21st century, and a very neat development among our kids. So before we go, one thing that we found out about today is that the Bishop Jose Gomez, who's the head of the USCCB, the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, is on May 1st going to reconsecrate our great nation and Canada as well to Our Lady in the name of Mary, Mother of the Church. In doing this, reconsecrating our country to our Blessed Mother, asking for her protection and intercession with this crazy pandemic. And I encourage you to participate in this. More information will be coming so that you can pray with the bishops. You could participate in the consecration, and go to Our Lady during this time. She's a mother, and all of you moms out there, you are feeling the weight of your families. And so does Our Lady. She feels the weight of your family as well. And as we consecrate our nation to our Blessed Mother at the beginning of her month, May, maybe we can do the same for our families as well, so that we get very positive results out of this e-learning, that there's peace and joy in our families, and then please let's get rid of this pandemic in any way that our Lord sees fit to do it. So this ends my update for this week. I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope that you are happy in your homes and are now feeling a little more confident in this process of e-learning. Please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone, your child's teachers, or to me, Mrs. Montry. Everyone is available for you. We're all working and we're all on communication devices, and we're happy to speak with you and support you. I also want to ask you to please keep your ideas coming. So many neat things have happened because a parent has thrown me a copy of what another school is doing or an idea that they had. And so cool things are happening because of that. So please keep the ideas coming. I really very much appreciate them. I hope you guys had a fun Spirit Day today and look forward to more fun activities next year. Next year? Oh, it's a Freudian slip. Next week, as we continue with e-learning at St. Teresa School. Thank you, parents. You are in my prayers, and I hope I am in yours.